Welcome for another episode, Live from the Heart podcast. I'm very excited to welcome you today for a new episode with Fabrice Maravigna, which is a dear friend of mine. And we've already done quite a few podcasts together. And I invite you to go listen to them because today will be a whole different topic and always very exciting. So get a cup of tea, maybe a bowl of popcorn and join us. Fabrice, welcome.
Absolutely.
Can you introduce yourself, please, in your Jesus setting?
Yeah, today there's the light. The light is amongst us, and we were just laughing at it just before starting the call. But for some of you who really want to know who I am, you can just listen to any previous podcast with Anne-Claire that we've done. I'm just an explorer and someone who is into self-actualization and sovereignty. And basically, we just feel that it's healthy to start some conversations, you and I, to challenge a little bit the belief systems that seems to not work so well in the world in 2024. So whereas 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we were those, 10 years ago even, we were those conspiracy theorists and weirdos. Well, actually, in the recent years, it looks like more and more people are reaching similar conclusions and coming together as a movement of questioning the narratives that we were born into. And so if that's someone like you have a positive criticism kind of mindset, but in your direct surrounding, everybody feels triggered and weirded out by the subjects that you want to discuss, then today you're gonna to enjoy this episode. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about different concepts that we've been told are the truth. And that's what they try to teach us at school. I actually remember being really bored when I was a student in the small schools learning about geography and things like that. I was like, yeah, really? And history and things that science sometimes, there is experimental science, which is always interesting. And then there's a science, which is religion, which is less interesting because you must believe me because I went to school and I learned some bullshit that I'm giving you back. And you must trust me because this is the only thing that's acceptable. So this is very interesting to start questioning everything. Were you always a rebel when you were a little boy? Were you in the classroom saying, hey, why? I don't really believe that. Or were you not?
Actually, yes. Yes, since I was little, I was very curious, and even in my early years at school, I was challenging the teachers in a way that made them very uncomfortable, and I got punished infinitely just for asking pretty simple questions, but clearly, you know, challenging authority wasn't very well perceived back then.
Still not.
Still not, I suppose, but yeah, I've always been curious, Anne Claire, and I think very few people have enough time or bandwidth to zoom out sufficiently from an idea just to reassess if this idea is actually sound. Very few of us can zoom out far enough to absolutely question with an open mind and heart the concepts. And in fact, there is a tendency to ridicule the one who do. you, you question the shape of the earth. You must be dumb. This has been proven for so many years. No, actually, not so many years. The people who built the pyramids of Egypt had a very different model, than the model that we have. So to frame a little bit the sharing today, I want to explain that on my years of questioning things and scrutinizing certain models, I realized the science that we have access to today not only is paid science, it's run by big corporations. So all the science, not just chemistry and I'm talking about archaeology, I'm talking about chronology, I'm talking about geology, physics, Why do you think we still don't have free energy in 2024, fam? I'm asking you a genuine question. Why do you think that is? Okay. Why do you think that the same people who produce pills and medicine to sell to sick people are also funding the research? Why do you think that's even acceptable in the first place? And yeah, one of the first concepts, I'm not saying I'm a flat earther kind of guy, because that's not exactly where I stand today, but the simple fact that from school we put a globe in front of the kids and we tell us that's how it is. Um, the more you try to debunk it, actually the more you fall into a giant realization, and the realization is, oh wow, I've never put 100 hours looking at this subject. Actually, I've never put 100 hours. I repeat what I've been told since I'm a little boy or girl. And a very interesting fact with the very word scientific, scientific, I posted this today on my page. If you translate this word from the Latin, scientific literally means, from the Latin root, knows. The one who knows, this is fiction. So scientific literally means, yeah, you can, everybody can Google that. Google Latin to English or English to Latin and just put scientific, and you will be surprised. So it's all hidden in plain sight. And the awakening game is a beautiful, beautiful journey. And to start to pay attention to things around us is life changing, because all of a sudden those models that we were holding so close to our hearts, even as an identity, those models are literally being deconstructed and reconstructed in a way that makes actually more sense, a way that is more complex, more symmetrical, more harmonious, more. It's always a better model, basically. But I suppose initially the average person is a head in the wheels morning to evening and does not have time to question things or to look into it. So let's say they hear about flat earth in a conversation and they get pissed off right away. They're like, oh, what kind of dumb person can think that the earth is flat when all the science for the last 200 years has proven that it's not? And in fact, I would encourage you to look deeper into that. But I'm not going to dive into this rabbit hole right now unless you have specific questions or stuff. But the answer is either a globe or flat. It's somewhere in between. And it's absolutely fantastic what I've realized just on subjects of that nature, you know.
I think not everyone is interested in every topic, which I totally can relate to. But some of them, sometimes life just forces us to get interested in. I'm thinking about the COVID time, because
Mm-hmm.
before COVID, I knew that there was a lot of things rotten in the pharmaceutical industry, and especially as a naturopath, I had a sense of what was off, and then I was just not caring because I thought, oh, people get to choose, and then we didn't choose anymore. We were stuck at home, and we had to mask ourselves and test ourselves and vaccine ourselves. So it's interesting how sometimes life makes you face the reality and gives you time to dive deeper because it becomes very necessary. So I would like to thank life for showing us the way always of the things that we must research in order to be empowered and make different choices.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's no different than when we were little, we believed in tales and traditions. I don't even know why we still lie to our children and with Santa and with the tooth fairy and all of that. But there was a time we would fight for our belief. And when the little kid at school was telling us Santa is not real, we would like cry and tell them you're lying. And actually what I realized, it's similar with most concepts and most ideas until one take the time to scrutinize data that is not corrupt. And why would data be corrupt? Because whoever controls the narrative has some vested interest in that. And yeah, when the science is paid, I think it's not necessarily, it's like the reporters and the media. What I like about the internet is all of a sudden anyone with a smartphone can become a genuine reporter. And quite often what we see reported from person to person is different than what we see for whoever is watching TV, for example, right? So, yeah, the COVID thing was definitely a large awakening for people because now it touched to our health. It touched to the health of our family. And so what ended up happening is some people don't like confrontation, or they don't even think that a governing agency could do anything wrong towards people. They think it's impossible, basically, but history would tell very different. If you were in Germany in the 1950s, some terrible things happened in plain sight, and nobody really saw it while we were in those years. So all I'm saying here is people should get into the habit of questioning who is presenting the data, and could it be other sides to the same conversation that we are not aware of, before making a decision that's really important, a decision about our health, a decision about our financial future, stuff like that. We should literally slow down and question things and look into things instead of just blindly trust TV or the doctors and stuff like that.
Yeah. I like that we're talking about it because I feel that a lot of people who create companies and who sell programs and stuff like that, like you or me, we have businesses, and quite often a lot of people that just kind of freeze and they don't reveal how they think and their views on the world and their critical thinking. And I think it's a pity because you're not losing anything by sharing that you think something's off in the world. You're actually gaining the fact that more people who also think critically um, will get interested and curious about the way you think because they also have doubts. And the more we're going to talk about it, the more we're going to figure out, oh, what feels like a truth that resonates with us and what does not. And this is very important that we're able to just open up those conversations. And so I'd like to thank you for your bravery.
Thank you, Anne-Claire. I liberated myself quite a few years back about what people may or may not think about me. Unless if you're my wife or my very close friends or my family, I always welcome positive criticism and feedback. But everybody will have an opinion of us. Even some people put you on a pedestal and they create you bigger and more accomplished than you truly are in life, right? And similarly, some people, you say one or two things that goes against their belief systems, and those people who do not have the wisdom or the mental capability to accept it's okay to have different beliefs as an adult. Not only it's okay, but just because you think differently, I mean, can we still relate politely as adults, or do we actually need to jump at each other's throats? And the deeper the sense of identity, the more powerful that energy is, right? So we see this a lot with religious beliefs, with money, with sexuality. Like these are the primordial mean to condition people. When a baby is born, is pure, is innocent, is absolutely not programmed. But some people are born in that country, in that country, in that timeline, and we just basically are getting programmed with so many things that tend to separate us and divide us and compare us, that it's very hard to come out of this as an adult. You need time for that.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's also a choice that I think we have at some point. There's like a fork. You come to a point that either you go down that road and you actually start inquiring, and then it shatters your world because everything that you thought was with the truth, then you lose your ground. So it's a choice of going down that road, knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable, or to keep the door closed and actually not inquire and think, okay, I'm fine, we're fine, everything's fine, and then we keep living in that lie, which is
Mhm.
yeah, everybody gets the choice like so many times. I feel we have many opportunities.
Yeah. In every person's life, you have at least 2 or 3 moments where you need to choose and commit to something. May that be a person, a career, opportunity. Yeah, yeah. You have all those choices, but something I'd like to bring in the conversation today, and Claire, is, for instance, when I started 17 years ago, I came across a guy called Nassim Haramein, and I wasn't necessarily a physicist or anything. But when I came across his work, for about a week I couldn't sleep, and I absorbed everything about this man that I could. And then I took a break and I started to draw my own models and do things, and then I went back at it, and I studied this man for about 2 or 3 years, very much in depth. And then I realized, wow, this man is actually correct. His mathematics are superior than the current model we have. And I didn't do much with that. I didn't add meaning to that. I thought it was kind of an isolated occurrence. But then, as I started to discover other errands, or people who are not the system, people who are original, they are content creators, they are people who question things, they are people who, they are not indoctrinated by academia, and therefore, because they don't have all this knowledge and baggage, they can look at the exact same thing and perceive it completely different, under a different light. And so, years after years, I started to discover so many different people talking about health, talking about geology, talking about archaeology, chronology, and I was flabbergasted. I was like, oh my God, once you see this, you cannot unsee it, basically. But it takes time for the mind to develop itself. Otherwise, it just split into a schism and a paranoia and an episode of some kind, right? Some people have that on plant medicine. They take or psychedelics. They take an amount that's too big for them to confront their own mental architecture, their own psyche. And the truth is, we are all afraid of our own psyche, and subconscious, especially unconscious, not the conscious mind, the subconscious, unconscious. And what psychedelics do is they reveal to ourselves who we truly are. And so I took mushrooms in my 20s, and I found that this was actually a very powerful tool to erase a lot of irrelevant beliefs that were placed upon me as a child. And it's kind of like cleaning your laptop. It's kind of to defragment your laptop. You get rid of a lot of crap, and you reorganize the data in your brain in a way that's so much more clear and efficient. But then you become an errant. You become an error for the system, for the matrix system. You become an anomaly. You become someone who is not doing what it's supposed to do, because you wake up from those compulsive programs into presence, and now you have so much more space and bandwidth and discernment to come to your own conclusions. And like we were saying before, because it's not so important for you to be validated by people, you don't waste your time being a people pleaser anymore. You're more curious about the truth that you're seeking. What is the response? What is the answer to this particular subject? Because we can clearly see where we are going in 2024 with the way we do energy with petrol. Everything is petroleum based, not just fuel, fam. Petrol is on your hand cream, your hair products, your makeup, the food, the plastic. Everything that we use on the daily comes from a very simple product, and there are so many superior ways to do that, and we know it. It's just that 20, 30, 50 years ago, people were killed for speaking their truth. Whereas these days, people who are connected to source and waking up by the hundreds of thousands, we realize that only source can take us down. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the more I speak up and the more I become a voice for brothers and sisters, some of them at least, some people come back to me like, yeah, but like, you should be smart and shut up. You should be smart and shut up. And you know where this leads us. You know, guys, where this road leads us, to play small and to hide and to shut up. There is no wisdom in playing small. The wisdom is, as you make enemies, you also make incredibly powerful allies. You see, so it works both ways.
Yeah. Sometimes what I found hard, and I got support for that because I found resources, was to make sense and have an overall picture. Because doing research in one topic and then research in another topic, and then, oh my God, the world doesn't make sense, and this is just too much. And I found that finding people who have inquired that for a longer period of time and who had gathered very valuable information, like, for example, the documentary Thrive, I found it very, very valuable on my journey. There are two of them. One, I think, was published many years ago, and another one during COVID. It was really good to see that they can talk about many things all together: health, history, fuel, many things, pharmaceuticals, like different things together, food, and then how, as humans, can we be empowered and not only witness the lies and not only denounce the lies, but also just step up and choose one of those categories or two and actually be an actor of change, because we make different choices, and because not only we bring awareness, but also just by our choices, then the other systems become obsolete because we're no longer interested in entertaining them. So I found it very helpful for me.
Absolutely, and I've certainly watched those documentaries as well that were amazing. Same with Zeitgeist. Same with Seaspiracy and The Need to Grow. And if you haven't seen any of these, fam, you absolutely need to check these out. Um, there are a couple that are also very powerful, but I don't remember from top of my head right now. One of them starts with a K. It's a threefold documentary as well that seems to compile that knowledge in a very clear, efficient way with visuals. Because when people are talking, it's harder to process the information. But um, can I ask you just a question, just for the sake of this interview, Anne
Yeah,
Claire? Do you yourself believe that we come from the monkey?
I do not.
You do not. Okay,
No.
well, that's very interesting, because I do not certainly either. And do you believe that a building like a pyramid of several million blocks of several tons each, and looking from above that pyramid, the center, after all those millions of blocks positioned, is not even 2.5 centimeter off center of the structure? Do you believe that this was built with copper tools, ropes, and people working against their will?
I do
Right?
not. I think it's so much more closer to Stargate, the TV show, than what we've been told at school. For example, it feels so much more right to me.
Yeah, and the reason why I ask those questions is because in the early stages of awakening, that's what you should look at. You should just like look at something that's easier for you to chew on. And as you gather answers and pieces of data that are novel to you, then when you move on to the next question, you bring all the knowledge with you. And so all of a sudden you have a puzzle, and 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down your awakening process, your models, the way you perceive and engage with and react to life, those models are so much more coherent. And one example that I would like to use here, but I hope to not really hurt anyone's feelings, but a lot of people that are really heavy in religion have a tendency to turn quite fanatic, and they get upset really quickly when you say something. So I need to be careful with that. But I was born and raised with a Christian background, and just like at school, I was asking the nuns questions, and they got really agitated because of my questions at 8 years old, and I got punished for asking those questions and stuff. And something that I remember from basic Christianity is pretty much everything we don't understand has to be the work of the devil. And that's as simple as that. The model that um, it's like you have a pair of glasses and you look through that program. If it's not what I've been told, it's the devil. And it kind of sounds ridiculous for some of us, but I don't want to be condescending either and you know, make some people feel uncomfortable here. I'm just saying, once you start to look at things, that explanation is not enough. It's bad. It's the devil. So you start to look at things, right? And you change your beliefs and you upgrade them. But because it's week by week, month by month, year by year, how you can grow over a period of 10 or 20 years is limitless. But the people who never take that first red pill, who never open that first door, you know, they stay stuck for life in very, very limiting, disempowering beliefs. And so again, there is both. There is good positive stuff in religion, and there is also limitations and ridiculous stuff. You know, I'm not attacking religion as such. It has its place in society, but I would say that once you start to look into some of those questions, um, you would be flabbergasted at the answers you will find out about that. You know, one of the recent things that I was looking into is geology. And I've always been connected to stones and precious crystals and things since I was little. I worked with Moldavites like 12, 15 years ago. I had like experiences with, and because crystals are, they hold a vibration, they hold a frequency. And so on your awakening at different time, you may find that this particular color or this particular frequency is supporting your process. And so it's fun and it's cool to work with all those things, you know. But then I never ask myself really how stones and crystals are made and stuff like that. So I ended up being quite curious about trying and understand what is science saying about geology. But actually, what I came to find out is not only this planet or plane T is not as old as we've been told. People talk about, we find a fossil and it's been here for 600 million years. What a bunch of crap, fam. And I'm sorry to hurt feelings here. I know I'm going to hurt feelings, but all the models we've been presented with are ridiculous. The actual only data that we have that's relevant is about 6,000 years of collective wisdom that has been preserved through all kind of cultures and writings and stuff. And for sure, we've lost a lot of previous books and previous data from the past. But basically, if you just look at how far we came as a civilization in just 200 years, fam, 200 years, we had buggies and cows. And in 200 years, we have a smartphone. We have AI. So try and think what it would mean to be on a planet for 10 million years or 50 million years, you know. It's kind of nonsensical, and I'm sorry to say it this way, but there is no polite way to tell you that we've been lied to at every levels. So with geology, there was a time on this planet where we had giants and we had titans. In fact, in most mythology from all around the world, they talk about the giants, the Goliath, and this and this and that. It doesn't matter which part of the world you come from. And because there are no giants around us right now, this sounds like a ridiculous idea, and we are shamed to believe that giants existed altogether. We are told, no, Fabrice, these are just little tales for infants, and this is the folklore. But actually, when you look at it, at least in my research, I realized that before the Great Flood, Noah's flood, which was so much water, just came and wiped the entire planet. Before that, there was a time where all the beings on the planet were giant. And so men were 10 or 20 times the size that we are today, men and women. Any kind of reptile would be a dinosaur, but it wasn't a different species. All the plants, all the mushrooms, all the leaves were giant. And so were we. And this vapor canopy period just had a lot of moisture in the air, a different sun in the sky, which is another crazy thing to talk about. A different sun? What are you talking about? Yes, there are cycles, and the luminaries above us are not what we think they are. In terms of size, in terms of positioning, it's so funny to look into those concepts, because it's funny, but it's scary too, right? We have to deconstruct our mind first and then reconstruct it with a different model. So those giant beings got wiped out. And this we can all agree about. Like, there are no giants today like that. There are no dinosaurs like that today, or giant reptiles. But a lot of them got covered, a mix of dead bodies, of flesh, of bones, of mud, of clay, of water. And so the biology that we were, basically because there was no air to for decay, for the flesh to decay, the flesh was trapped. Exactly the same as you see petrified trees who turn into agate, into obsidian. Why do you think we have petrified trees, fam? We also have petrified humans, petrified giants, petrified reptiles, petrified everything you want. And so, yeah, I don't want to go too deep, but we can identify now certain gemstones like opals to be linked to an organ of the body, like the heart, and stuff like that. And so it's true, we never really took the time to contemplate those subjects and stuff. And I'm not pretending I have the truth and that's how it is, that's the final truth. I'm just saying, in the models that I'm playing with, I get so much more empowerment, and everything makes more sense. Everything makes more sense. The same way you understand the Pyramid of Giza was not built like academia keep telling us. It's rather, if you are an archaeologist and you try to say different, they tell you, sorry, man, you're not part of the club anymore. Goodbye. Same with the doctors. When Dr. Raoult speaked during COVID and he cured the problem in 10 minutes, they not only removed his letters, but they trashed him, and then they ended up suppressing him altogether and stuff. So we can really see there is a hidden hand at play who is really trying to program idiotic beliefs in our minds so that we ourselves stay stuck in invisible glass ceilings, even with the shape of this planet, even with the resources that we have. And these are fascinating conversations, at least for some of us, Anne-Claire.
Does it keep you up at night? Does it keep you up at night?
Sorry, I just lost you for just 10 seconds.
Yeah, I heard that. Does it keep you up at night?
It depends. It comes by waves. So basically, every time, let's say you have a breakthrough, you have an insight, even about something everyday life, okay? You live in pain, you have traumas, and then someone come into your life and give you the key to liberate yourself from trauma and pain. That's a huge breakthrough, right? And similarly, now you have that key with you, and then you go on for another 5 years in your life, and now you have 20 keys with you. And those 20 keys, one day, they come up together into a bigger realization, into a wow moment, a quantum leap in your understanding of things. And so, for me, I'm not on all the time with those subjects, but very regularly, I come across something of interest, and then I really obsess about it for several weeks. I gather all the data that I can from this side, from that side, And eventually I draw my own conclusions and end up finding people that are absolute experts who dedicated 30 years of their lives to explain that particular subject. And yeah, most of the guys that I learn from, they're not part of academia, and they all have the same message. If you are, you're suppressed. You cannot speak your truth. You're suppressed. At least censored, you know? Um, and so also something I want to add to this, Anne Claire, is like, for some people, they're like, yeah, but why would you even care? Like, why is that even important to you? Like, I just want to eat, get laid, be happy, have a dog. I just want to live my life. And I get it. We don't have all the same gifts and duties and responsibilities as a soul in this incarnation. We don't. That would be boring if everybody was the same, right? But I do believe that you need to contribute to society. You need to add value to your peer group. And one way to do that is to develop some kind of expertise. And yeah, 20 years ago wasn't so much the time to talk about all those subjects. But now that we live in a time of global awakening, actually it's necessary to speak about those subjects. Otherwise, that's when you have the early conspiracy theorists coming out with some unfinished views on things, and actually it's not healthy for nobody, you
Yeah.
know.
Also, if we want to tap into our powers as human beings and understand who we truly are in our materiality and also in our divinity, then it's important to start to make sense of the world we live in, because otherwise we always will consider that we're so limited, but actually we're limited because we think the world is how it is. But if we know that the world is different, and that maybe in the past we've had higher powers that we knew about and we were just owning them, but now we can reconnect to that too. This is the moment also to do this journey. It's so important.
Now is always the moment, Anne Claire. It's just we understand this differently at different time of our life. It was a time I was okay to slow down and procrastinate and play and chill, and but when you start to really value every single day that you have on this planet, you actually sleep less, you work more, you add more value, you help more people, yeah. And on a subject that I'm personally passionate about, which is this avatar, this human body, we've always been told it's a bag of flesh and bones. But actually, it occurred to me that we are technology, Anne Claire, and we are the most accomplished technology in all of the realm. People are afraid of AI or computers. That's only because they don't even know how our DNA is computing 10,000 billion transactions per second and computations per second, just so that you can breathe and digest and walk. And there's a great, great wisdom from the West, from the East, pardon me. So everything that has to do with Chinese medicine, with Indian yogis, there's a tremendous body of wisdom for that's, let's say, 3 to 5,000 years of collective knowledge. People who had nothing to do, and they started to breathe and close their eyes and meditate, and they started to realize a lot of things within themselves, not placing their attention just externally for a whole lifetime. So they started to dial in, and then they started to change gear with how their body function, and they started to have cities or superpowers or superhuman abilities. Whereas, as a matter of fact, this is not superhuman at all. This is the human potential. And I would argue that's precisely why the matrix that we are born into is trying so hard to distract people with salt and sugar and war and porn and stupid things to buy with your money that you work so hard for. And it's distraction, because when people start to tune in, they realize this avatar is a giant computer. And if you are fortunate enough, to be in Bali and or in India, and you ever meet in the flesh, in the presence, an accomplished master, You guys would be very, very surprised and humbled down about what we're talking about here, about spontaneous healing, about miracles. And this has nothing to do with miracles. It has to do with understanding the energy that we are made of, the energy of the field, the vacuum in between people, the ether, and how to direct that and channel that and focus that energy into a specific project and so forth. So, yeah, the human body is a very, very neat technology, my brothers and sisters. And a lot of us are coming online. And in 5 years, 10 years, we're going to see a lot of Marvel superheroes in the flesh, because the time is now, because we are at the end of a civilization, we are at the end of a very large cycle. And as we get closer to the reset, a lot of us will be enabled and empowered and guided more specifically. So we have the polarity of the light and the dark. And mark my words, fam, in 5 or 10 years, you will see it will be common for some people to speak light language for 30 seconds and move more trauma and energy in someone who has done 10 years of therapy. I've witnessed that myself for the last 7 years, you know. And so I understand that we are technology, and in the early stages, there is so much misinformation, so little context, some people who are lying and bullshitting and wanting to be part of something and pretending. You have it all. But you know, energy doesn't lie. You cannot fake energy. And so for me, as humans, we should spend more time in self-love and self-exploration within ourselves to start to taste the capabilities of this beautiful human body. Which is why I'm pretty confident to say we do not come from the monkey, fam.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so valuable, those conversations. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I feel today was just sort of a little menu of different interesting subjects for people. We just barely scratched the surface, but you know, obviously, if some of you already have an audience, or you have some kind of expertise and you want to jump into a debate or something like that, that would be very valuable. Because our attempt with Anne-Claire, I mean, I cannot speak for yourself, but I feel that's what we're doing here is we're just trying to raise the bar with those subjects, because there is still a lot of confusion and delusion and imagination. Uh, but the truth is even more trippy than what we can imagine in our wildest dreams. That's the paradox here. The more we wake up to why is it that we decided to incarnate in this lifetime, what is our mission, and why do we need each other to make it through, um, then there's an inner drive inside of you that's you just become unstoppable. Just your cup is always full, you know, in a sense. So I feel that's what we're trying to do. We're not pretending. I certainly don't pretend that I have the ultimate truth and it is like this. However, I can say that I've put hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, in most subjects that I'm speaking with, also combined with my direct experience. And I mean, in due time, you know, with my wife Gaia, we do some channelings and some healings and things like that. We just don't brag about that on social media because it's still so misunderstood. But you know, 7 years ago, this wasn't true for me. Now I need to own it. I cannot play small. I cannot hide. I don't care about being judged about that. It's just that energy is wanting to move through us. And all we can do is speak our truth, find the people in resonance with that kind of vibe. And those who do not vibe, I just hope that we can be mature enough to agree to disagree and say, okay, thank you for the contrasts you bring into my life, and I'm just gonna have to keep on doing things my way. And it's completely fine, you know?
Thank you. Fabrice, if people want to follow you and learn from you on different topics, which are currently more crypto oriented, where can they follow you?
Yeah, Instagram is gonna to be the best at they call me Fab. And then Anne Claire, I'm trying to actually exit that platform. So I've been looking. I have 3 platforms on the shortlist. Maybe we can talk at the occasion about platforms that are more decentralized in the way where censorship is not ruling what you can talk about, not talk about, and also platforms where the algorithm is not trying to control everything.
Yeah.
Something more organic. And that would be perhaps a good subject to discuss with our friends.
Yeah, I'd like that too. Thank you
Cool.
so much. Thank you for everyone who listened until the end. And please share it around to your communities and friends and families, to anybody who is a little bit curious about the world we live in. And hopefully, we'll just, as you said, raise the bar and make those conversations kind of normal conversations instead of talking about the weather.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, Anne Claire. It's always a pleasure.
À bientôt.